Welcome to the Barbell Strikes Back. I'm James McDermott, joined by Miguel Porter. Miguel, we have just completed our first full week of the new year. How you feel about it?
Yeah, it's going. It's going for sure.
It feels like an accomplishment. I mean, that felt like a long week. I don't know about you, but it was like we got to Thursday and I was like, whoa, like maybe I've just been extra busy or focusing on so many things, but I felt like last week took much longer than it actually did, a normal week feeling.
Yeah, because we've had those two like weird weeks, and then the new year started in the middle of the week. So this being like the first full one, kind of switched things up. It was also really cold.
Yes. Yeah. Really cold, still dark out, earlier in the day. So it just makes it hard to do anything. Yet I've been very productive. Like I've been forcing myself to do things like, nope, we're gonna go to the grocery store, we're gonna get that stuff. We're not gonna just go straight home. We're gonna get our little mini micro goals in. I don't know about you, but like I've been trying to stay busy, even though maybe the inclination would be to let me just grab a blanket here and just lay back in this recliner and continue to watch a show or something.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same way. I like have to fill this time with things now, so try to limit my amount of trips going like back and forth to my house and just like, all right, if I'm already out, what else can I knock out during this time?
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's kind of like the title of the episode. We're setting the tone, right, for not only this beginning of the year, but hopefully the entire year. And things will change as we go throughout the year, but we're trying to get a good foundation right now. Everything we're doing is going to lead to success later. And Friday night, I wanted to go straight home, but I was like, you know what? Future James, you remember how we talked about future Miguel, present Miguel, past, all those things.
Yep.
Future James would really like it if he didn't have to leave the house tomorrow, go out in the cold and all that stuff. So, present James, you should go to Target right now and buy these things that you couldn't find at Hannaford. Just do it right now. You're already in the car. You just if you don't do it right now, you're going to have to put on your shoes and leave the house tomorrow when you
Yep.
just want to be home, relax, you're working on stuff. It's going to put a little thing in the middle of your day. And I did that and I was like, I and then on Saturday I was so glad I did that, Miguel. So glad. You just got to take care of future Miguel.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. It really is. It's hard to do. Um, but sometimes if you think of yourself as like a separate person, it's like, well, I wouldn't do that to him. Let me all right. Let me just take care of this right now.
Yeah.
Same thing with putting the dishes in the dishwasher or when they're clean, taking them out. Because I know if I don't do that, I'm creating a problem for future James. And it's always the worst when future James is in a hurry. Oh, man, like he got behind schedule. Then he goes into the kitchen to do something and it's a mess. And now we can't cook before we clean or things. It's like
Right.
past James did that to you. Your roommate did that to you, you know? So that's how I'm trying to operate as much as possible. Are you kind of doing the same?
Yeah, definitely. I think having a roommate has helped me with that too, where it's like one, it's like the just being considerate, right? Of like, I
Yep.
don't want someone else to have to deal with that. But then it also turns into, okay, if I ignore this and then he ignores this and also adds on top of it, then it's double work for me. So
Yes.
that's really what it's turned into of just like, I'm going to clean this now so that I don't have to come back to anything. If they add something else to it, then that's on them. But for
Yep.
now, everything that I have that I need to take care of is taken care of. And again, yeah, it's always like when you're in a rush or, you know, something like yesterday morning where Friday night, I'm like, all right, let's do these dishes now because I don't like to leave the house in the morning with dishes in the sink or not put away. So, all right, I'll do it Friday night so that Saturday morning, when I think I have a bunch of time and I think I've planned it out, so I get to the gym early and then I turn and then there's snow on the car and all of that. So, glad I took care of that before because you never know what's going to happen the
Yep.
next morning.
You always think there's going to be extra time or the right amount of time,
Right.
and in most situations throughout a whole year, you're correct. But then there's always a handful of like moments where I'll be in a rush. I'll get out there and someone's doing something funny with the elevator. Like you can hear that they have it propped open because they're doing, or the mailman will do that. He'll put
Yep.
his box in the door, the floor below, so he can go do deliveries, but he's holding up the elevator. It's because he doesn't want to wait for the elevator later. This has happened several times. But I left the house a little too late because I had to do the dishes, then cook my food because I want to eat. And it's just a cascading
Right.
effect where you slowly lose minutes and you don't realize it. And it all runs up to right when you have to be somewhere, right in
Mm-hmm.
that moment. So it's like you said, you want to be considerate for the other person. And I think sometimes the person that we forget to be considerate for the most is ourselves.
Yeah.
It's easy to sacrifice yourself. And I don't think what we're trying to do right now is selfish, like because you can certainly be considerate yourself and be selfish towards other people. I think we're just trying to treat ourselves how we would treat other people or
Yeah.
situations,
Definitely.
and that's how you be successful and achieve your goals. So we're setting the tone in the right way, and the whole team is doing it because we have completed week one of the new Albany CrossFit Barbell Club training cycle. This week sets the tone for, I mean, kind of the year, right? Like we're many of you are rebuilding your technique or figuring out how to snatch again for the first time, from the floor and other positions. We haven't done a training cycle like this in a while where we're really isolating positions, the classic positions, if you will,
Yep.
and spending all this time on just back squat strength. I mean, you remember the brutal squat programs we used to do where it was 90% of your maxes and stuff like that. How do you feel this first week went?
Good. I mean, towards the tail end of the week, I mean, we lost some people um, by Friday, and also, I mean, it was a true week one of body is starting kind of fresh um, with everything, but I think it's looking good. I think we're all working on things that will build by the end of this cycle, and we'll see the progress through that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of a last man or woman standing by the end, end of the week there, I think everyone held strong Monday and Wednesday. And then just Friday, we had a bunch of illnesses and stuff like that. It is that time of year. You
Yeah.
know, I don't know what y'all are doing out there out in the world getting, getting sick, especially for people who work at home. I don't know. But I don't get sick that often, so it's hard for me to relate. But yeah, um, I think it was interesting too. This week one was a very non-aggressive week one. Like we're working in the 70 percentile range for most things, unless I go. I'm like for you, I'm going off a theoretical max on a clean and jerk, which yours was a little heavier because your 70% was heavier than what your actual max is. But I still think that I still think it evens out. I think that is a true
Yeah.
70%.
Hmm.
Because if we went off of 70% of your real max, that actually might be like closer to 65% or something like that.
Hmm.
But so normally I would start a training cycle, all things around 80%. So I thought to myself, let me start 70%. And for some things, I brought it down even lower. Like maybe, let's just say Haley's 70% was 53 kilos on a snatch or something. I just bumped it down to 50 kilos, just even. Just because it's week one, we're coming off the holidays. Some of you guys have been, hit or miss with sessions. We haven't done it in a while. And now I just have more room to go up the next week. It's
Yep.
whatever the starting point is, it almost doesn't matter. What matters is the intent behind it. And the intent was not to have many mislifts or
Right.
have it be brutal, the way that we have started other training cycles before. Do you think that was true with the numbers, for at least for you?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, I mean, other than because I mean, yeah, Monday and Wednesday went, I would say, went great for me, and then I think Friday was just like, oh, this is what it feels like to be back fully training. Our body's just gonna have to adjust. I don't think it'll be as bad as this past week, just because it was like truly the first week back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the numbers were good. I think what was going to be tough was going to be tough no matter what numbers were used, and what was going to be easy was going to be easy. But yeah, I think it was a good way to get everyone back, especially getting back to three separate pieces. And part of it was really just testing out timing too, of like, all right, now as a group, we have to get back to hard caps at this is 20 minutes. So can we get
Yeah.
this done in 20 minutes?
Yeah. And we were able to do that. Well, we were able to do that for most of the week. The back squat, I think on Monday, I didn't start the warm up as quickly or have as truncated as a warm up because I still had that, like, well, it's the first day back kind of mindset.
Yep.
So we did extra warm up. This week, I'll go much faster. We might be on a Tabata timer or something like that, just short, and then get the barbells. Let's start back squatting type of deal. Because it is meant to be an extension of the warm up. Like, we're
Yeah.
still warming up. You do a couple sets at those really light weights in the bar and everything, you're warm for everything else we're doing. So I got started later than I wanted to on Monday. And then Friday, Friday we went over the time caps, but with three people, it's like we almost didn't need to, like you guys could take a little more time with that. I'm okay with that. It's once we get the big group together that and everyone's like getting caught in conversations or someone's way behind by several, that's when it starts to become too much.
Yeah.
So it's always like when you're teaching a CrossFit class, the bigger the group gets, you have to go way faster.
Yeah.
You have to
definitely.
cut things down. I'm sure you've noticed that. If I have two people at the 4 o'clock class and like, wow, we finished on time, I can't go by that same timing when we have 12 because we're gonna go over by 5 minutes. Just the sheer time it takes that many people to get all the rowers out.
Yep.
It's totally different, So you always have to make adjustments for that. So yeah, the timing went well, and now I know where I have to tighten it up because I would like to give you guys time, and I'm trying not to forget either. When we finish a piece, the first thing we do is evaluate the piece we just finished on those cards, because we have our new numbers cards where we can rate our performance and then write down why. Do you think that's working well? I was thinking about it. Should the rate performance should it be rating how hard it was and why, or rating how you feel you did or why? What do you think?
Is there a difference?
Well, I guess the difference would be if it's 70 percentile week and you put down a 5, like this was crazy hard. That might, and then you write down like, whoa, that felt like 90% or something. Again, we're going to like the RPE conversation. That helps me to know, like, okay, and you missed 3 sets. This was too heavy. Maybe we need to stay here another week or go up a smaller amount. Versus if you're telling me it was a 1, it was like almost overly easy. Okay, I need to challenge you more. I don't know. I haven't really read all of them.
I think it's opposite.
Was the opposite,
meaning like 5 is best, 1 is bad.
Oh yes, yeah, okay.
But I don't know. I've been kind of rating it off of at least for this first week. I think this is appropriate for the whole thing. But when we put our intention for that section, I'm kind of rating it overall based off how well I executed that intention.
Yeah.
Of course, taking into account like misses and stuff, but obviously, like, you would assume if I wasn't hitting my intention properly, that is one of the reasons that I'm missing, because I would choose an intention that is going to help me make the lifts.
Like
or something that I know I need to work on. Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of how I've been doing it with, okay, this is exactly how I wanted to execute this. Even if it's light right now, that's why I put the intention.
Yeah.
So because it's light, I want to make sure that I'm doing this. And if I'm able to do that across all my sets, then that would be a 5. Like a miss, of course, I would knock off a point or whatever, depending on like how it was. And then, yeah, if other things popped up that weren't great, I would also knock off points for that and like include that.
And that's what I assume most of you guys are doing. Um, we'll have Jennifer and Justin back on Monday. So I'll do another brief like explanation of like, hey, just remember this is what we're doing. But maybe I'll be sure to say and clarify, as part of your performance rating, did you accomplish the goal you set for yourself at the beginning? On back squats, you wanted to have, a smooth, descent and a powerful, ascent coming back out of it. Did you do that, or were you grinding through all the sets? And then through that, I can kind of learn too, like, okay, well, you're trying to go fast, maybe it's too heavy. I don't know, like, but it's good. I think it's just a good reflection practice, because
Yep.
like we don't do that. I don't know how often you guys do that, like after a training session, because also it's late at night. You got to get dinner, sleep, shower, all that stuff. But it's good to at least have some kind of time to reflect on, like, well, how did that go? Like,
Yeah.
like how do you think it went? And also kind of just write down a thought. And what I'm planning to do is normally I have all of you guys like photographs of each of your cards on a spreadsheet for a training cycle. I'm going to make a section at the top of it where it would say like week 1 through 12 or whatever it is, and it would be day 1, day 2, day 3, and then the components, and then type out what you said your focus was and what your ratings are, and then we can look across it, be like, hey, look at in 6 weeks you rated all of your back squat performances uh, 4. You know, uh, wait, you said we said 1 is the best.
No.
No, 5 is the best. Yes, it's
Yep.
the opposite way. You rate them all 1, right? So out of this many points, we could have got, this is what you did. Well, like, why do we think that is? And then we can talk about it deeper. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do out of that. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So week 1, I think Haley was the one person to complete week 1 in its entirety. Also, well, I got to wait to find out if Jennifer did do day 4. It could be Jennifer and Haley also did day 4. And I also don't know how day 4 went for Haley. So, well, that remains to be seen. Uh, I don't know. I'm thinking about, like, day 4 seems like the most hit or miss type of thing, right?
It depends. I think it's a very momentum based thing.
Uh huh.
Like I know that when we are all consistently doing it, that everyone consistently does it. I know that's not like
Yeah.
that doesn't, it sounds like it doesn't mean anything, but like my only thought would be, oh, this week Haley had to do it by herself. I hope she still wants to do it next week when we're all able to do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And it's like, I'm not even saying like I don't think day 4 isn't necessary, but it's like it's definitely not a make or break of the programming.
yeah,
Like, it's like, because like the majority of the time, many of you don't do it. Like there's a lot of misses on day 4. Jennifer's pretty consistent though. All right, Jennifer is the one sole, consistent thread of day 4. But other than that, I think it's good to have it there where it's like it's elective training essentially.
yeah,
It's like if you wanted to come in today, which you don't have to because it's not going to make or break the main program, you could. And here's something to do.
yeah,
Here are things that we could be working on. Now, if you were doing day 4, like from start to finish, there's a huge amount of benefit there,
yeah,
especially with working on all those little weak points that the exercise selection is going to do. So, yeah.
yeah. Agreed.
Well, maybe we'll get a nice momentum flowing here on week 2. Any other thoughts on week 1?
Um, no, I would just say it's definitely a real week 1. My hands hurt.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, we're back to really moving things. So yeah,
it's funny how we did. I mean, it's not like we were not doing hard workouts in the off season, but it's funny how like that stuff helped you, but like not in this way.
yeah,
Like
it's
not
different.
not in snatch and clean and jerking 3 times a week, even though two of those other times are from positions, you know.
Yeah.
Real quick, how did that go? How do you think that went with having those special qualifiers on the warm up sets earlier in the week? Like we did the Schenkel on Monday, then we did the Panda pulls. Just to, you know, we've talked about this in previous shows within the last couple episodes, getting more out of those warm up sets and kind of keeping something like the Schenkel alive, like using it as a tool to refine technique for later in the session. Do you think it did help you have sharper technique on your hang snatches or the Panda pulls on your high hang snatches? And do you think it was beneficial overall?
Yeah, I think it was beneficial. I think so twofold. So for like the newer members, I would say because we only do those things like once a year, one to just get them the coordination with it or to like figure it out. Um, like especially the panda pull, I find that really beneficial, but not everyone gets like the rhythm. And I
Yeah.
think once you figure out that rhythm, it'll help you with snatches. So keeping it there, I think, will help. And it also kind of helps you set your intention because you feel the way that the practice swings kind of assist you. Like this now for the people who've done the Schenkel a bunch across years, you know the way that it feels when you hit it a certain way. So okay, here's how that clean would feel in a Schenkel complex. I want to get that clean to feel that way even after we drop it.
Yeah. Because I mean, those three hang pulls, they kind of help you with that clean,
Right.
getting the speed and the momentum and finishing all the way. And you know, I know Haley puts down extension sometimes for her focus for either the snatch or the clean. So this is like it's like, hey, a reminder, like this is what it should feel like when you're doing that. And also try to get this speed with it.
Yep.
Or if it's a snatch balance, like, hey, how is dropping under the bar and receiving it feeling today? You know, how are your shoulders locked in, your footwork? Maybe that needs to be a focus. So yeah, I do think one, I think it's also it's more fun than just doing straight sets of five on hang snatch doubles. You know, like there's a little it adds a little excitement to everything right in the beginning. There's a lot of
Yep.
movement going around. And it does get hard because there is a conditioning element to it. Your hands are working, the bar is on your body. So maybe when you do get to the last two warm-up sets and your working sets, it is a little easier for a different way. Did it feel like that? Like it felt a little easier almost?
Yeah, I think because once you finish set three, you're like, oh, I don't have a full complex to do. I can kind of get going with these doubles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I was thinking about like what could we do on the high hang day? Maybe we do panda pulls and overhead squats. And I'm like, well, do we need the overhead squat? I don't think so. I'd rather do three panda pulls, you know, and then just keep it at 5 reps. I was really seeing you got like a lot of you guys going from a hard pull on the panda pull to that transferring over to the high hang snatch.
Yeah.
Like that's one of my favorite combos. Is I mean, if I'm going to use a panda pole, I think for me as a coach or in programming, I almost prefer to use it mainly with the high hang snatch. I think
Yeah.
they go so well together, or the high hang clean. The regular panda pole, like from the floor, I don't know if I'm in love with it. You know, I don't know if it ends up causing more problems than it actually should. Uh, it's still a good tool, but I just have noticed with you guys, so again, a closed group, that the benefits and the best is always when we go from the high hang, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. So week one done, week two coming up. We'll see how that goes. I'm hoping to get at least one session in, which, oh, by the way, which you know this, full squat snatch with an empty barbell for me, first time in
Yeah.
a while. So
Nice.
the how did it look? Like it's so weird because like I can't feel anything. Like normally I would know that like, oh, that felt like a nice snatch. And when I watched a video back, I was like, wow, I didn't think it felt or it didn't feel like that.
Yeah. I think, yeah, based on video, like it looked great.
Yeah, it's like I haven't done that in a while. I'm like, oh, it's the body still remembers
Hmm.
after so many repetitions. You know, it's only a 7 kilo bar, 15 pound bar, and I didn't film it, but you should have seen the overhead squat before that because I did like a power, Like, let me see what it's like to go down there.
Yeah.
And like your eyes do different things because like the main thing is like, can I hold it with my
Mm.
left wrist? That like the left wrist is really the main problem right now on what we're going to be able to do there. Uh, but and I was like, you know what, let's just try it. And I had that on my board as one of my goals. It's like not only do I want to do these other things, but I want to try one set, you know, and see how it feels. And it felt good. So now I'm setting another goal based on that, where the meet I do later this year, I don't know what one, I don't want to power snatch or split snatch. I won't
Yeah.
allow myself. Like we will bomb out or we will full squat or whatever happens. So yeah, that's the goal, is to retrain that. The full clean, whole nother story. We will wait for that because again, that's a wrist thing.
Yeah.
Like I can't, like I don't even like. We're getting closer, I think, to be able to front squat. When I can front squat and like be okay with whatever pulling is happening there, that'll help me to get closer to cleans.
Yeah.
And really, it'll make the clean easier because cleans are hard when you can't whip through.
Hmm.
It's one of those things where it's like, now that I have to do it that way, I don't understand how people do it that way,
Yeah.
and all that, like how that's the default way. Because I remember just the easy way, you know, like, and that's what I try to tell people. I'm like you'll make it easier if you do it this way.
Yeah.
If you go against what like your the thing you think needs to happen, like pulling with your arms or whatnot, and it may feel hard in the beginning, or the weights might go down. That's okay because you're making your life easier in the future if you just do it the right way off the bat. It's a whole conversation, people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited for that. So I only got one session in. I remember on my goals, 3 sessions was the goal. I'm going to do the whole training cycle, but again, the week just got so crazy busy. We have people on vacations, and I'm getting a lot of leads. I had to meet with an on ramp, all kinds of stuff. So it's that beginning of the year gym type of thing.
Yeah.
Only got one in, but it was more of an exploratory session. I did the 5 sets of 5 with just that same empty barbell. I did everything with just that same empty barbell, no weights, because I had to find out, what is tomorrow going to feel like
Yeah.
and look like. Are our knees gonna be blown up? Are we gonna be able to walk tomorrow? And my quads were sore, you know, because we haven't done that in a while. We haven't gone below parallel that many times in a row with weight like that in a while. So
Yeah.
feeling that out, I was like, okay, I'm excited to do more. I do think that just once exploratory in the week was okay. Next week, I want to get more sessions in and try to add a little bit more weight, especially with the back squat. The back squat's weird. Uh, I can't feel my legs. I don't know if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I can't feel my legs and back while I do it. Like it feels like the bar is on my back. I'm standing tall. As I start to go down, it's like empty, like in the brain. I don't know, does that make sense? Like I can't feel the movement at all.
Interesting. Like, are you feeling it else? So yeah, not at all.
Like when
Interesting.
I go down, like I have no awareness of if I'm at depth. I know I'm at depth because I can look at my legs. I'm like, well, all right,
Hmm.
I can see that, and it feels like I'm rounding a lot more. But I bet if I ask someone, they're like, no, you're perfectly upright. So I can't,
Yeah.
like the like I had a lot of neurological issues with all of this stuff going
Right.
on, and then just not moving them and not being able to mentally like just like go down the squat. It's like that pain thing where you're like, no, I can't
Yeah. Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it because I know what the range of motion is. So now that it's open again, I'm trying to like relearn it almost. It's a very weird thing.
Yeah.
Um, I know you say you can't feel things sometimes. I wonder if that's a similar thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Because I don't know. I feel like it transfers. Like I would say a good example or like a recent example are like the good mornings
Uh-huh.
where at a certain weight I no longer feel the activation, um,
Yeah.
but I'm able to feel it in those lighter weights, and I know that it's still doing something, and I know that I'm not like going fully
Yeah.
incorrect or something, but the sensation isn't the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe I'm like remembering what the sensation used to be like, Because I
Yeah.
used to be able to like to squat fast, like we would squat down, kind of bounce off the calves, shoot right back up, all that stuff. And now it has to be slow. And I'm trying to be more intentional with it, like a big breath into the belly before every squat, like and brace my back. But once we get to a certain part, it's like from rib cage below, like I'm like I don't feel anything like
Hmm.
happening, which is good that I'm going slow. I don't think adding a target would help. I think that would be more jarring than anything.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'll keep working on it. Like, but that was just a very interesting thing. I'm like, I have no spatial awareness on like what's what's going on. It doesn't feel unsafe, but it's like I remember feeling something. I remember
Yeah.
feeling activation, and like I knew when I was in a certain spot, but no more. So yeah, we'll keep at it. Week two coming up. No swimming for me. It's been hard. Can't get a spot. I can't get
Yeah.
a spot at the time that I need to go. It's so annoying. Um, I'm gonna keep trying. I'm hoping if I book today for Tuesday, I can maybe get a morning spot.
Yeah.
And again, all right, there are spots available, Miguel, but I refuse to share a lane. I can't do it. We can't do it. I must find a solo lane. Anyways, how are all your other little things going that you're kind of working on?
Good. Again, I think it's like week one. So, you know, I've been trying to make it so that I leave work and I head straight to the gym and I do, some accessory stuff or work on whatever I feel I need to work on and then train. And now back with a full, like, we're back into it. I think that's like not wearing on me, but I think it's like it's jarring this first week
Yeah,
of like, oh, this is what we're doing now. I need this. And sometimes you just need your body to realize what it needs and then you'll adapt.
yeah, and you can make adjustments, right? Like I had my whole list that we talked about a couple episodes ago. Some of those things that were my goals, they haven't happened yet. Like like even like so sitting down to start working on that one book again hasn't happened yet
Yeah.
because I have so many other paperwork things like for the WSO, for Albany CrossFit, getting started, all those things for the year that I'm still trying to finish. And I'm like, I have to get that stuff done first, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Although I am trying to cram, like beginning of semester, get as much stuff done as possible now. So I do have more time later. So that stuff hasn't happened. I haven't gotten in the sauna yet once this year. That was a goal. Still trying to kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
I'm reading at night, but not every night. Just doesn't happen every night. But like my non-negotiables are kind of still there. Like
Yeah.
we're hitting the 365. We're walking 7K a day. Last night, I at the end of the night, I had to just walk around my apartment, reading on my phone, doing other things for like an hour just to get there. But like
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, nope, nope. We're not gonna. It's time to put the laptop down and go do that. And that's part of why I wanted it there to stop me from like continuing to go and working on these other projects because
Yeah.
that has to be above. You know, it's okay for the email to go out tomorrow. Did you hit 7K today? That's
Yeah.
the most important part. So it's been because it's trying to figure out where all the pieces go to make it all work, and I'm realizing it's going to take a lot of practice to get it all. I do want all of it, but right now, can I just hit the non-negotiables? And the health stuff is at the top of the list for
Yeah.
sure. Is there anything that you haven't started yet that you were trying to?
Um, no, I don't think so. I think I'm pretty much on with everything. Um, but yeah, taking it week to week, I think maybe there'll even be things that pop up in these next few weeks or next month that I see like, oh, maybe I want to add this in or this or that. And I think those things will come. So yeah.
Yeah. It's okay to make adjustments, and it's also okay as like a new year comes up or you start trying to like get a good reset and plan goals to put it all down on paper and edit it later.
Yeah.
That's I mean, when if you're writing a book or you're writing anything, just just put it all down on paper,
Hmm.
and then you'll start to edit it over time. So like I had a lot of things. There might be be some things that I also look at and you look at and you're like, you know what? I thought this was important, but I really don't care anymore. Like
Yeah.
this can go. Like the sauna thing, I thought it was important. It sounds like a good idea in my head. You read all the articles and all that stuff. But if I get in there once a week, maybe that's
Yeah.
okay. Like, do I have
Yeah.
to force getting in there, all this time? So, yeah, I think making the adjustments and doing all that stuff and just putting it all down on paper and editing later is, I think it's an interesting way, or maybe a good way of just goal setting. Just
Yeah.
put it all down there and then kind of figure it out. And if you do that, I think that might help a little bit with the, if you don't accomplish it all or you aren't perfect, then it's okay. It helps to cushion the blow a little bit, because a lot of
Yeah.
people want to be perfect, and when they're not perfect, it's a huge problem. Um, Now, one thing that you and I were also both had on our list were kind of like trying new things or different activities. And um, like for me, it's like being like a multi-sport athlete or trying a lot of new sports. For you, I think it's maybe close to the same. I don't know.
Yeah. It's essentially the same thing. It's kind of like oh, see something. If it's interesting, try it.
Yeah, yeah, try it. Uh, So we both have done that within the first week of the year. So that's cool. I mean, you had already been doing ballroom dancing since September, so
Right.
that's an activity that you've been doing, and then you just recently did a silk class, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the ballroom dancing has that helped your other athletic things at all, like just footwork and coordination?
It's interesting because I don't want to say it's the opposite, but there are definitely things that I think I do as just like an athlete, or like how an athlete stands, like that is contrary to like a dancer.
Uh huh.
Like my feet when I stand aren't together. They're not together facing forward. They're always at an angle. It's almost like I'm always ready to like pivot or turn or run or like squat.
Yeah.
And for dancing, it's different. It's the same thing with like kind of shoulder positioning as well, of like relaxing but keeping like your elbow up and all that, where I'm thinking like all the time it's like press um with more lifting stuff. So there are some things that are definitely opposite, I would say.
I wonder, do you think that in the long term, it'll make your movement more fluid? Like something like a butterfly pull up comes to mind. Like there has to be moments of tension and then moments of letting gravity and the movement, just like it's like a dance, just work
Yeah.
with it instead of against it. And that, even in weightlifting, that's a hard thing for people starting out to get, is like not working against the bar or trying to muscle the bar, but like moving fluidly and moving with it, like a dance. Do you
Yeah.
think that you'll see some carryover there, or have you already in some of those more CrossFit movements?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some benefit, or just learning how to do something differently. I've always done it this way, but okay, if I'm turning around, all right, I should bend this forward knee and turn this way, and like gym floor versus a, hardwood floor or something else, and gym shoes versus like a softer sole, or things like
Yeah.
that. So it's just really teaching me how to do things differently in like different settings.
And I think it makes you a stronger competitor. Like anything that puts you outside your comfort zone, I think makes you a stronger competitor or a stronger coach on just being comfortable in your own skin, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of guys that can't take a dancing class. They would never be able to go beyond that, like I guess bravado or ego
Yeah.
type of thing, to feel silly or to like just put themselves out there like that. So I think the more that you do things like that, it just makes you better at those other things. At least that's what I know to be true for myself. Do
Yeah.
you think that's true for you?
Yeah. I would say so for sure. You don't even really have time to, like, I am surprisingly, at least from what I thought, because of how everything else has gone, like, oh, I thought I would be pretty good at it already. but it's
Yeah.
kind of like starting fresh and being around people who have been doing it for longer. And you don't have time to be embarrassed. Like, you have to keep on going, even if you mess up, even if, whatever. Same thing with the SOS class that I took yesterday. I was the only guy in class. Um, and yeah, you kind of are just going, and you can't worry about, like, do I look silly? Or, I mean, you're already there and you're already doing it. So you just
Yeah.
got to do it.
Yeah. And it's like, uh, uh, it'll reflect in your coaching when like you can just be looser in front of a group, you
Right.
know, and have more fun. And it is overall, it's fun to be a beginner again at some things. Like you've been doing weightlifting and CrossFit for you're getting pretty close to 10 years, right? Like when did you start? 2017?
2017. Yeah.
We're only two years away. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
2025. That's crazy. That's crazy. Uh, it's like that meme. 2015 was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't like that one, but it's fun to be a beginner again and also receive coaching and to just have to go with it. Like, have you noticed in ballroom dancing or the silk any coaching or instructor things where you're like, oh, I like the way that was explained. I might try that with some CrossFit movements, or they explain it so simply, and you're like, am I explaining things that I'm trying to get people to do as simply as that in few words that just make sense and get you from A to B? Have you noticed any of that?
Yeah. There are different pieces for sure. Ballroom, it's a lot of it has been, it's a show and then do. Um,
Tell,
and
show, do,
then
check.
Right. And then, like, repetition, repetition, repetition. And like I said, another thing that I've really gotten out of it is, like, you just have to keep going. If you mess up, we can't go, oh, I messed up, pause, and then, all right, let's start from the top. It's kind of like, all right, you messed up, keep going. Try not to do that again,
Yeah,
and just keep moving. With the sales class, so I didn't go to like an intro class. I kind of just went to an open class. So all different levels. One thing that I liked about that is that it was moving. Like, once the time that class was supposed to start came, we were going. And, if people were coming in right at that time or a little bit late, they just kind of jumped in where we were. There was no like big deal about it. We weren't really waiting. Um, And it was kind of just like, yeah, this is clearly a flow that if you're doing this a bunch, you know what the flow is. But if you're not, you can follow along. I was able to follow along, but there wasn't too much like, all right, hold, let's make sure this person is with everyone. And I kind of like that style every now and then, but it depends on kind of like the atmosphere that you're working with.
yeah.
But yeah, definitely different coaching styles for sure.
Well, and I mean, we talked about that recently. That's something that we're trying to get back to a little bit in classes, or at least I am, on like not waiting for people. Like I know some coaches still at our gym, the class starts at 4 and Miguel's not here yet. We saw he was signed up. Well, let's wait till 4:03, 4:05, which is not the correct thing. It's like everyone else was on time. Miguel is late. That's the Miguel problem, not the
Yeah.
group's problem. Like we just start and then you insert them in, and you don't make a big deal about it when they eventually do come in because you don't know why.
Right.
Maybe they got cut off in traffic or pulled over, or who knows why. You're just happy that they're there. Hey, is everything okay? All right, cool. Hop in. And the flow of everything should be in a way that you can get people caught up. Like, all right, grab your barbell, start following along. We're working on snatches. Like, it doesn't have to be a whole reteaching or something like that. Like, that's kind of how a class should be, right? And if you are if you're able to control all aspects of it as the instructor, you'll get there no problem.
Yep.
So that's sometimes it's good to like see it happen in other things and be like, yes, I'm not crazy. This is how it should be. Like
Yeah.
kind of a deal. Like, and we're not waiting for anybody. It's like, okay, everybody's set. I don't know why you didn't grab your barbell. Grab your barbell and hop in.
Mhm.
We're not going to kind of wait type of a deal. and there was one thing you said on just the continuous movement. It's like one example that pops in my head is like rowing. When people are rowing, well, I always kind of preface it with like keep rowing, and then I'll go into what we're
Yeah.
doing, because sometimes you'll want to give someone a pointer and they'll stop rowing, and it's like no, 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 keep doing what you're doing, but now let's change it while you're moving. And rowing is one of the easiest things to do that with. It's just kind of like when people are like well, like doing like the snatch movement, and you're like no, no, just keep practicing it, don't think about it, just
Yeah.
keep doing it. We'll just try to make this adjustment. So yeah, it's good to see those things out in the wild, if you will,
Hmm.
at other places. Any other big takeaways from ballroom dancing or silk that you think have been helpful?
Um, no, they're both kind of similar in the ways of, okay, I'm not great at this, and I'm aware now that I'm not great at this, so I
Mhm.
have to continue doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know the next time I'll take a Sims class. I think next week we're pretty booked up on Saturday. Um, but yeah, definitely going to take another one, um, and try to get better at that, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a branch of gymnastics, right?
Yeah, it's,
So
yeah,
it's pretty cool that you're getting a wide view of gymnastics, like you did over the summer, a gymnastics course or class at a gymnastics gym, working on different things. So you've got like the real roots perspective a little bit. You've got the CrossFit perspective, which, as you're seeing, is different. It's
yeah,
it's very, very different. And then, although we try to be the same, but still. And then you have the perspective of silk, which is it's still it's I remember when we took the Power Monkey course, acrobatics was like one of the things that they had up there. And I'm not sure where silk falls into acrobatics and regular gymnast stuff, but
hmm,
it's cool to like explore it, right? Like if it's the same thing if you went to a powerlifting gym, like, hey, can I get a lesson with a powerlifting coach, teach me how to squat, bench, and deadlift, and then you go back to your CrossFit gym and you try to implement some of those things. You
right,
go to an authentic weightlifting gym, and you do that. It's That's what they used to do back in the day when CrossFit was coming up. You can see all the old videos on their YouTube channel of the seminar staff or the HQ staff. They were at Westside Barbell for a week or a weekend learning from Louis Simmons, and he's teaching them about bands and all this thing and the conjugate method and all that stuff. That's where it all came from. Of cross they had their thing, and then they started to go out and spend time with the specialists.
yeah,
And that's something that a CrossFit trainer can do right now. Okay, go to the local rowing club and learn about rowing on the water and on the erg, and just get different cues, different perspectives, see what that sport actually comes from, because rowing on the erg is a sport on its own.
yeah,
If you wanted to, you could compete in rowing and go to a big gym where they have them all hooked up to monitors and stuff, and row a 500, and now you've done the sport of rowing. Like,
hmm,
and sometimes we forget that that component in the workout today, that's a sport all by itself.
yeah,
uh, and what I try to think about when I'm coaching classes is that, I'm asking you to do very, very well in a sport component of it multiple times over, mixed in with all of our other stuff. And
yeah,
it's like, if you were an athlete just doing that, what would be expected of you and how should you do it? And also, what's realistic on the distance that you're doing, you
yeah,
know, to be able to tie into all these things. That's the perfect example is weights in a Metcon versus weights when it's just heavy. It's
yeah.
like two totally different things, and but you have to respect where it came from first to get that second part right. What do you think? That is that a correct way of looking at it?
Yeah,
Is that how you
I
look
would
at it?
say so. It's yeah, they're all different branches off of, you know, a core idea. And if you want to branch out, you kind of have to touch each aspect of it.
Yeah, and you should, and you'll be more well rounded, and it'll give you stuff in your as you're coaching. Let's say the day is just like a big gymnastics day. That's handstand, walk, heavy, something like that. That's all we're doing. When people come in, you can make that class way more fun.
Yep.
Like you like you can talk from experience on like, hey, all right, when I went to a gymnastics gym, they told me to do this, and I find it works that. You know, when you're upside down hanging from the, you can just start to incorporate those things or stories. I mean, you've heard me talk about stories from weightlifting all the time,
Yeah.
from like different seminars and stuff. You can just add a little bit of flair, a little bit of something to it instead of just the black and white. Here's progression step one, blah 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 blah. Instead, you can be like, all right, well, here's progression one. We want to do this. And by the way, Klokov, big strong Russian guy, slapped me in the face when I did it wrong. Whatever you want. Like you can just
Yeah.
start to add your own experience to it. And I think that makes it more fun for you and for them.
Yeah.
I did archery on Thursday. I took an archery lesson. Uh, Shot 6 arrows every single time to first target 10 yards away. Then we went to 15 yards away. And boy, the difference is huge.
Hmm.
You know, it's like adding another 5 pounds to your barbell, and it's like, or 5 kilos.
Yeah.
I got really, really good at always hitting the paper on the 10 yards and always hitting on the color, you know, for the little rings on the target.
Yeah.
Got my first bullseye, so that was cool. And my very first shot ever, I hit the big yellow dot, not the bullseye dot.
Mm-hmm.
But then once we went to 15 yards, we're out on the cardboard. We're
Yeah.
hitting like the stand, all that stuff. And the farthest it would go would be 20 yards. That's where the wall was behind
Yeah.
my big box. And it was just it was definitely eye opening on like, wow, like the strength to pull the bow back. And you would think that you just hold it here and pull the string back. You actually push them away from one
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
You push the front of the bow away with the front hand, and you pull this one back. And your front hand has to be relaxed. If you squeeze this and you have too much tension in your forearms, that's when it'll go every which way. It just has to be like loose holding on to it. And you'll know, like if you do a shot and you do this, like you pull down your pinky, and like as you let go, it'll go this way. If you do this, it'll go that way. If you squeeze, it'll go one way. So just finding the perfect balance in your hand and having it push your palm through, like you're just pushing through a door, was interesting, and feeling the way the muscles work there. And then with the backhand, where those fingers go, if they're clustered together like this, if they're spread out, all of it makes a difference. It was such a delicate balance on just handling the implements itself to be able to manipulate them. And it was like so similar to like what you're doing with a barbell in your hands when you're snatching. I know I
Mm-hmm.
like to relate everything to weightlifting, but like if you are death gripping the bar, you know, like it's going to go one way and you have too much tension through your arms instead of
Yeah.
pulling a little looser. If you have like just the pinkies barely hanging off, that might help you whip it through quicker. Like there were so many like similarities on just the tact and the touch for the implement and how sensitive it is. And that just made me kind of remember, it's like when I'm working with beginners and people like that, to be looking for those things, because you start to get into like a box of like, you're always looking for hip extension, you're always looking for the lockout, or you start to like always be looking for the things that are valid for competition, this and that, the footwork, but like you forget about, you know, the hands
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Very, very important. So that was cool. I learned that eventually you want gloves because my fingers were raw by the end. Like I'm just like, you pull back and you don't let go. You just kind of let your fingers roll off
Mm-hmm.
of the string. So like no one goes and plucks it or like opens their hand. You just kind of keep pulling, and then you pull and you let go, and it goes.
Yeah.
So that was cool learning all the hand movements, but they do wear gloves to protect the
Yeah.
fingers.
Yeah.
I was like I need finger tape because I was pretty raw by the end. The guy did say, he's like, you've shot way more arrows and you're lasting a lot longer than people normally do. I don't know if that's just because of like the CrossFit mindset, and when I was like, oh, we're just going to keep going even though things are getting tired.
Yeah.
But I love how everything that I do, they tell me after the fact, like, oh, most beginners only do 2 swim events or 1 instead of 4. Or wow, you've shot over 50 arrows. Most people haven't lasted this long. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
love how they keep telling me that. I don't know if it's just because of the way I look, where they're like, he'll be okay. He looks somewhat fit and capable, or they see the barbell club logo on my shirt and they're like, oh, he'll be all right. But I have been noticing that people have not they've just been like letting me go.
Yeah, I feel like that's typical though. You kind of you will either see it like drastically that like, oh, this person needs a break or they need to stop,
Yeah,
or that person will go, all right, I need to like get water, or like, can we
yeah,
pause for a second? So yeah, typically, yeah, I've had the similar thing with me where they're like, oh yeah, no, like you should take a second if you're feeling tired, and then you're like, oh,
yeah.
I thought everyone was just going, but
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Well, and it gives a reminder to me too. It's like, hey, when people come into CrossFit for the first time, scale the crap out of them.
Yeah.
Like, like because I'm going out into the world and I'm not being scaled the way that I probably should be. Like
Hmm.
I was dying at that swim meet, remember? And but they and I had told them through emails, this is my first meet. I've never done this before. All this stuff. I only swim for practice here, but then I had all my CrossFit stuff in my bio with links and everything. And they're probably like, oh, he'll be all right. We have CrossFit
Yeah.
people come in all the time. He's young, 30 in the 35 to 39 age group. And no one warns me in advance,
Hmm.
no one asked me if I had a coach and all this stuff. So I have been noticing that, which means I need to be more careful
Yeah.
as I go into things. But the archery was cool. Accuracy and coordination is it's definitely like an interesting way to work on those components of the 10 components of fitness. On just like seeing with your eyes and getting the thing to happen with just like your subtle hand movements and where you're looking down the arrow.
Yeah.
Like you can either look at the target or look at the head of the arrow. And when you close one eye, like one of them should be blurry, one of them should be clear,
Hmm.
and you kind of pick. And then if let's say you were aiming down at the bottom corner of the screen here and the arrow landed low, like where the head of the line is on your shirt, but you want it to go more center, well, okay, you're getting it over that far by being down that corner. So you don't need to move over into the target. You just need to move up. So
Hmm.
learning how to adjust the shot was really, really interesting. And learning like what are you, a righty or a lefty? The guy had me uh, point my finger at his nose and and do this back and forth, and he watched my eyes and he's like, "Oh, you're a left dominant one," um, which it's interesting that he figured that out right away, because if I close my eye like this, it's blurrier on my right than it is my left. I can
Hmm.
see better through my left eye, and that's how my prescription is. I don't I would like to ask how he did that. What I didn't ask, but like I was like, that's a cool trick because he figured that out. Like he figured my prescription out right away, just having me
Yeah.
do this. I was like, how did he do that?
Hmm.
Um, and that determines where if the bow is going to be forward in the right hand and what kind of bow you need, because the little ledge for the arrow is either on this side or that side. So
Yeah.
if you're holding it on the left, it need to be on this side. How to adjust the arrow. It has different colored feathers. So there's a certain way to organize it on the bow. And then what way to stand. Again, if you're a lefty, you would stand looking that way. If you're a righty, you'd stand looking that
Yeah.
way. So that was all interesting. And he did a really good job of teaching me stance and grip and start position, which those are the things he had me set up like that so well that my very first shot that he guided me through, he's like, all right, aim up, do this, do that. I hit the yellow center part of the target, my
Yeah.
very first shot. It didn't go wild. So that was one thing that like I'm like thinking about the coaching aspect of it. He taught me the stance, grip, and start position perfectly right off
Yeah.
the bat. And then that was the foundation every single time on like what we were building off of. And then the technique just came. And that's what we want to do. You're teaching air squats, teach them the stance and the start position. What are we going to do here? If you're teaching pull-ups, grip, start position. If you're teaching a snatch, stance, grip, start position. That's something that we want to be harping on all the time, because then your job as a coach becomes way easier, right? So that was one big takeaway that I took from that. And I learned that the way you measure the weight of arrows, every sport has its own weight. Do you know the weight for archery? What the measurement is? The unit?
No, no clue.
Grains. And
Hmm.
I was like, how much does this arrow weigh? And he told me, he's like, oh, it's 0.6 grains or whatever it is. And I'm like, grains as in grains of sand? And he's like, yeah, that's it. I'm like, well, okay, I didn't know that. That's like that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire question, for like $32,000. Okay, Miguel, is it A, pounds, B, grams, C, grains, or D, kilograms? And then you do the 50-50, and it shows you grains and grams, and you're like, shh. Like, but the correct answer was grains. I was like,
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before. That's cool. A new unit of measurement.
Hmm.
And now I want to know how many grains in a kilogram, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's just fun to see when like your max PR is like a million grains. It just sounds like, wow, look at me, a million
Yeah.
grains of sand. So yeah, I totally enjoyed it. Muscles were sore in weird different ways on the front arm and the back arm for the shoulder.
Yeah.
And I will definitely do it again. Of course, as I was leaving, they're like, "Okay, well, you might want to buy a bow, all that stuff." I'm like, "Look, like if I come 10 times this year and it becomes a regular thing where on a Sunday I'm like, you know what, I could shoot today, I consider buying a bow."
Yeah.
And I think for me, I think it's cooler and more fun to shoot with like the wooden style bow than like those big elaborate compound ones with the
Yeah. Yeah.
scope. Like when you're playing Skyrim, that's the bow you get, and I'm like, that's the one I want. Like I don't need a
Hmm.
fancy thing. I'd want to be at in the parking lot at Albany CrossFit with my satchel of arrows and shooting into a cardboard box, like, which I don't know if that's legal, but that's kind of what I thought about. I'm like, well, hey, I
Yeah.
could just set something up over there, and that'd be fun. Do you think you would try archery?
Yeah. At some point, why not?
Yeah, I think that'd be fun to maybe get a group of people to go sometime and like expose everyone to it. It's a fun thing. It was like weird walking in because it's like a hunting place too. So there
Right.
are all these hunters there, and like I walked in, and I'm like, I'm here for the lesson, and I don't think that they thought I would come. I imagine people call all the time, but I actually showed up. So like the vibe in the place was different.
Yeah.
Like there's not music bumping, it's not all that stuff. It's like everyone looked over like, who's this guy in the CrossFit gear? And I'm like, I'm here for the lesson.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. But then by the end of it, they had warmed up to me. Everyone was super nice and all that stuff. It's like, but like I'm definitely not a part of that crowd.
Yeah.
And also respect to them. I would be terrified to try to shoot an animal with a bow
Hmm.
because when you do that, you're supposed to like go for the kill shot so the animal suffers less. I already know. We'd be on arrow 5, and I'd be like pouring. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. If you would just lay down, like I don't know how people do that, because again, 15 yards, and they're talking about shooting from 70 yards away and
Yeah.
whatever. I don't, and hitting it in the heart. No, I could never do that, and I would never survive in the wild like that. Like when they do like the Naked and Afraid, and
Yeah.
they make a bow and they're trying to kill like a deer. It's like, yeah, I I have a lot of respect for people throughout history who have had to do that, and that's how they survived. Like it's like a perspective thing. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
like it would take a lot more practice probably for me to get to that point. So cool. Let's talk a little bit about nutrition here. Where did you want to go with this?
Um, just really quickly, I guess as we were thinking about like new year and goals and all of that, I was just thinking for myself of like, yeah, how do we approach that as we have newer people in the gym I guess this is like my first start of the year as like a coach, I guess you could say.
Yep, coaching a
Um,
class of your own.
yeah, so kind of how we approach that, like adding in nutrition as a piece of CrossFit.
Yeah. Typically in on ramp, we would have a nutrition discussion. We have, and what that looks like is on the board, the methodology board in
Yep.
our room. We talk about how it's the base of the pyramid. We'd look over at all the, like, just a few of the types of diets you could do. And the main message is always, it's not about being perfect. It even says that on the board. It's not about anything like that. In the beginning, it's just about consistency on just like building the habits. Like, okay, you don't eat breakfast every day, but that's going to factor into your goal. That's what you want to do. Then just eating something every day, whether it be an apple, a granola bar, just building the routine. And then we can start to make it better later. It's just
Yep.
like with weightlifting. Like the beginning, it's like we have to go from hips to overhead. and then hips to overhead into a squat and get really good at that. We're not worrying about maxing out. You know, actually getting up and cooking eggs and bacon and stuff every day, that's maxing out, which for some of us is easy. You're very used to it. You've done it a million times. For others, it's very difficult and you'll stop early on what you could potentially do.
Yeah.
So it's just about building consistent habits and then focusing on the quantity of the food versus the quality. Because if you focus on quality first and doing it all at once, the quality thing means we might get too restrictive too fast, and then you start to fail because you're doing something that's unrealistic to your own self or your environment or even your goals. You know,
Yeah.
it used to be back in the day you had to go strict paleo right now, do all this stuff, and it ends up developing poor habits and psychological habits around food. Some people can do that. Some people can do that. At the beginning of the year, boom, I'm on my thing. No problem. I can all the cookies and stuff from the holiday goes away. Don't even have cravings anymore. You know, but I've built up systems for myself to be able to handle that. And I've done it a million times. I'm okay with it. Someone just starting out, you might get a client, Miguel, that's 40 years old. They've never once worked on their nutrition, or they've tried and they failed. Just like how we talked about, this first week has been tough. Right now is where everyone's going through it. They
Yeah.
might make it another week, might. So imagine how things are difficult for you and I on just trying to figure it out. We're still hyper motivated to keep the challenge going.
Hmm.
Other people, their workload is increasing. The kids are back in school, all that stuff. Socials things are coming up, or they're just getting like tired of it because they've eaten broccoli for lunch 3 times this week and it sucks, and they just want to get that big back, and the cravings are coming back. Like, so it's different. So you can't treat them like you would treat yourself. We're
Yeah.
we're a little bit of outliers. We're also crazy people. Like, we're the people that if we were smokers, cold turkey, it's fine.
Hmm.
And I will suffer through whatever comes with that. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
okay with it. Other people, that's really, really hard. That's a lot too much to ask of them. So just focus on being consistent with something every single day and focus on one goal. Okay. You again, you want to eat 3 meals a day. That's all we're focusing on. I don't care how big it is. I don't care if you're drinking water, blah, blah, blah. Like, those things you'll iron out later, you know. So they may give you a list of 10 things. I want to stop drinking every night. I want to do this or that. Help them figure out what the most important one is for them and just focus on that one thing. Like,
Yeah.
if you're their nutrition coach, and then let them know the expectations. This is going to be a long-term thing. I can't be honest. I cannot do this for you in 90 days. I'm not going to be there tonight when you open up the bottle.
Hmm.
Like, unless you text me and I talk you off a ledge, which I have had that happen before. It's just not realistic. So make it realistic for yourself. Make it realistic for them. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah. So, yeah, let's say, like, I know that it gets brought up in on ramp, but what if someone like then wanted to move on and say, okay, how would you start them off? Like, I know you said it's consistency, but would you have them like track what they eat on like a day or like weekly basis?
Yes. Yep. So I we have the initial talk, and then I just give people advice on just consistency. I try to hound that home. That is the most important thing. Even, and if you're not perfect one day or something goes awry, just get back on track the next day. There's always another day or another meal or whatever. It's not ruined. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Um, but then I don't know anything. I have no tangible data until you tell me what you're doing right now. So I will give them the homework of, okay, Miguel, I want you to write down. Let's just think about last week. What did you eat, for your meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a majority of each day? Or just pick a handful of days. Give me Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or give me Wednesday and a Saturday. What did you eat those days? Just show me and tell me what a typical weekend and typical weekday look like. For
Yeah.
a lot of people, the weekday looks the same because they're working the same hours, all that stuff. They're kind of on the same routine. The weekends, that's when things start to change a little bit and get crazy. So just give me a snapshot into it, and then we can talk about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, you never eat lunch. Why don't you ever eat lunch? well, I always just try to get more work done, blah, blah, blah. Ah, well, here goes to like other things we've talked about on like, okay, you need to put pencils down and do the right thing for you. Because if that job lays you off and you're just another number and whatnot, they don't care that you never ate lunch and all that
Yeah.
other stuff. Like you're that's that thing of like the place doesn't always care about its employees when you're in those big, corporate type of jobs. Like they'll just replace you,
Hmm.
and they don't care that you missed your kid's soccer game. They don't care that you were up till 3 a.m. getting extra stuff done for them. That it doesn't matter. It's only a what can you do for me now type of a situation, right? A lot of people work jobs like that. So like having them prioritize themselves and understanding that they're not being selfish by doing so, they'll actually be better at their job and other things if they do that. That's a tough part too. A lot of this is psychology like that on getting people to do those things.
Yeah. Cool.
I
And
think a good
then,
place. Oh, can continue.
well, I was going to jump to something else. So if you wanted to,
Oh, I was just gonna say for you as a coach, and you know what? Maybe I'll make this a goal for myself next week too. I've been trying to have that extra 10 minutes of class to stretch, clean up, write down stuff at the board. What if we added in the best place to talk about nutrition is right at the end of the workout? Like
Mhm.
that can be a cool down for the day. Hey, everybody, come on over, pop a squat. So yeah, just want to what's everyone doing for protein? Like or this or that. Like you can start to insert little mini like 2-minute nutrition lectures at the end of your class, and that will force you as the coach to do a little bit of research. How can I simplify this into like an elevator type pitch where I'm going to relay something and then I'm wanting them to speak more and
Yeah.
get questions from them that I can answer. And then always, if I can't answer something, you know what? Let me look that up. I'm not sure 100%, and I'll get back to you. And then you can follow up on a text or an email or the next time you see them, like, hey, I looked up that thing about broccoli covered in lime juice and stuff, and it's better and it tastes better. Like it actually works. Let's try it. I tried it. Little things like that. So that's a great place to start to have that conversation in classes, and you're adding more value to your class.
Yeah.
Like think about it that way. It's the difference between running up to the hour and being like, crap, we all got to go, pack it up, go home, versus now in that last 10 minutes, we've cleaned up, we've stretched, we got scores on the board, we talked about tomorrow's workout, and we had a little nutrition talk. And that adds more value from their perspective on, sometimes in gyms, people they fit the word like, I gotta bounce, I gotta go. Because there's no
Hmm.
value at the end of class. It's kind of like at the beginning of class. People like, I don't need to be there for the whiteboard brief. They don't see the value in it. So it's up to us as the coach to have that value in it. Imagine if you went to your silk class or ballroom dancing class and they had something really cool always at the end that you got a lot out of, some kind of discussion. And you would be like, oh, I'm staying till the very end. I'm
Yeah.
like, not only am I here for the main thing, I'm there here for that thing too.
Hmm.
So that's let's make that a goal next week for your class on what a little nutrition thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, jumping, I guess, to the opposite end of the spectrum. Let's say like you have a longtime CrossFit athlete or a weightlifter, um, and they like say, my goal is to reach whatever CrossFit has now, read whatever like the regional equivalent is, and like that they have like they're right at the cusp, like they could get there. Or same thing with weightlifting, like I want to get to nationals and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
I'm now looking into getting more serious about my nutrition. Like what things would you say to those athletes, and is there a difference between, let's say, like a CrossFitter, um, or a weightlifter that, like, let's say either they do like one big session like in a day, or maybe they're doing like 2 days? Like, are there any differences between like how a CrossFitter should eat or go about their nutrition and how a weightlifter should?
Yeah, I would say so. In terms of what you're saying that you would say to them to get to the next level, right? Like so,
Yeah, yeah.
they come to you. They're like, man, I'm so close. What should I do nutrition wise? I think we'd have to go back and determine like, are they eating enough to like
Hmm.
to perform optimally? And I would err on the side of like not most of the time. because it is hard unless there's someone that doesn't have if they're working a job, I would err on the side of not. If there's someone
Yeah.
who like the training funds them and stuff like that, all right, we should get you on a meal service plan or do something like,
Hmm.
because this is your job. So is training their job or not? And that's how you know whether you have an advanced athlete, a true advanced athlete
Right.
or not, is training the job or is training um, their second job,
Hmm.
because of course you need to pay the bills first. And it's tough. So I would try to determine if they're eating enough food, and it always goes down to, for me, first checking the protein. Are you eating enough protein? Are you under eating? Are you eating enough for maintenance on where you want to be? Or are you not eating enough for recovery too? Because especially with all these things, you need the protein for recovery. It's the building blocks, right?
Yep.
We're breaking it down in training now. We need to build it back up. The more advanced the athlete, you can start to look at the timing of their nutrition too.
Hmm.
Like, are you eating one meal a day? Are you eating after your multiple training sessions? What's the post workout, pre workout meal, all that stuff? So you'll have meals and nutrition to fuel the thing they're doing and then to recover from it, and then their general meals. So it kind of just depends on the level of athlete, what they have time for, all of that stuff. Does that answer that part of the question? I'm not sure
Yeah. Yeah.
where I'm at. All right. And then, so I would just, again, it goes back to, what are you doing right now? Show me some
Hmm.
data. Are you even eating enough? What are you eating? Okay, we need two more sweet potatoes here. We need to do
Yeah.
this. We need to do that. And then you can start to tweak, like, bang for your buck foods. Okay, you're eating like pounds and pounds of spinach and you hate it and it's getting your carbs. Could we add in? Are you okay with sweet potatoes and a banana? Like, would that like make this easier for you? Like, just try to make it as easy as possible for them.
Hmm.
And I think with those higher level athletes, as has been proven, kind of, we don't have to be as like, you need to be paleo, you need to do this or that.
Right.
Like, some of them do, but Rich Froning used to eat a jar of peanut butter every day just to survive, right? And get the calories in. And all those athletes, you hear the things that they're eating protein cookies or like things that I maybe wouldn't recommend to the general person that I'm just trying to be healthy.
Yeah.
Um, with CrossFit or weightlifter, I don't think that they vary too much on. Uh, do you mean the food type?
Yeah. Or like, let's say for a CrossFitter, it's like, oh, I did a Metcon or like a really long workout that was, I sweat a bunch and it was very endurance based versus like, even if we were going CrossFitter, but like, oh, it was more of a strength day or like high intensity, one lift, like that type of thing.
Yeah,
Would like the after workout or even pre workout nutrition be different?
I think depending on the activity and like the temperature and stuff, electrolytes, like how you're supplementing with some of that stuff is important. I think if you have someone who's like the regional or nationals level and they're doing a lot, you can start to like worry about maybe some supplementation, but they should still be getting the majority of it from their food and everything.
Yep.
Versus like a beginner straight out of on ramp something, we don't need to think about supplements at all. Like what are we supplementing, right? Like, we
Right.
need to have a solid diet or not even a diet, like a lifestyle we're living before we start to supplement it. And it always goes the other way. With weightlifters, I know a lot of weightlifters out there are like, yeah, let's have after training, let's go get the Big Mac and stuff like that. I do think some people can get away with that, but I I want people to be healthy too, because like, what's after weightlifting?
Hmm.
What's going on with your health? You can be a weightlifter and be very unhealthy. And you can be very, very strong and be very, very unhealthy. I've done it before, being very like eating very, very unhealthy, and you're just strong. And you have that little layer of fluff on you and your face is always swollen, stuff like that. I'm sure you've seen people out and about at meets where you're like if, when you look at them, you're like, okay, they are strong, but they don't look healthy.
Hmm.
And they probably, like a lot of people when they switch to weightlifting, they're like, okay, this is because I don't want to do those other metabolic type of activities. I just
Right.
want to lift healthy, but they eat in a way that's not for health. They just kind of keep eating the way they want to or
Yeah.
whatever. You've heard about power lifter diets before, all that stuff for some of those people. And you have to wonder, like, okay, that's what you're doing. And then you look at their lifts and you're like, it's still not where you should be. Like, okay, you're a big, you're an overweight 109 and you're snatching 70 kilos and clean and jerking 102. What kind of lifestyle we live in here? You
Right.
calling yourself a weightlifter? You'd be way better off eating way more clean. If they're the national level person, well, we want to make sure the joints are healthy, all that stuff. If they're lifting like legit weights, like they're lifting, let's say this is like uh, a, a 73 kilo lifter who's lifting, they're snatching 130, clean and jerking 160, something like that, something pretty darn good. Like, okay, well, when you eat badly and you eat like fast food stuff all the time, that does affect your joints and everything. You have all that crap in there. So, again, I always try to lean towards healthy if we can, you
Right.
know, um, versus the fast food. The fast food, if you're going to have fast food right after training, I guess is the best part.
Hmm.
Not the Mike diet. So the there's your 73 who's not lifting 130 and 160, who's eating a full lasagna pizza and 10 pieces of cheesecake and 17 cups of coffee and whatnot. Not the healthiest, right? He
Right.
makes it work, but I wouldn't recommend that for all or most people. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say so. Um, yeah. I guess last piece I had was kind of like any myths that you hear, like when you're talking to people about nutrition, like what are like some preconceived things that people come with that you're kind of like, oh, that's not even true. Like,
Yeah.
for example, I don't know, like I've seen things of like, oh, what you're eating doesn't necessarily matter. It's just purely calories in versus calories out. So like if you want to lose weight, you can eat whatever you want from the gas station as long as
Yeah.
the calories that you consume are like less, like that's fine.
Yeah. I think that's like, it's like true in a sense of like, if
Right.
you
Like
eat less,
technically, yeah.
you will lose weight. Like, you see the things about, but also if you starve yourself, you'll lose
Right.
weight, right? But I do think from like a health standpoint, it's total bullshit. Like, if I were like, if I were to eat every single day a bunch of ho hos from the gas station and Reese's cups and other stuff, and my caloric intake at the end of the day is 800 calories, sure, I'll lose weight, but I bet I'm also not super healthy. Like,
Yeah.
how many times am I spiking my insulin with high sugary carb foods all throughout the day? What chemicals and other weird crap is in that food? Like that they're talking about now, some of like the seed oils that you could be eating, they stay inside of you for years on end to get rid of that stuff. Uh, so yeah, I don't think that's. I think that's like a yes and a no situation. I think it's like a yes thing when people want to make excuses and other stuff, or just like oversimplify it.
Yeah.
But each person's internal, chemistry is different too. Like, look at Mike as an example. He can have like, remember when he showed us his abs? Like, he can have insane abs and be lean and strong and stuff, eating things that I know if I ate, I would be over 200 pounds and swollen and my joints are hurting and all that stuff. Like, art. And if we both ate that type of food at the amount for both of us to lose weight, yes, we would both lose weight, but I know my internal chemistry will not be able to tolerate
Yeah.
that. Like,
Hmm.
I will wake up feeling like shit, or I'll have trouble sleeping. Like, you ever eat like too much like crazy food and like it affects your sleep? Does that ever
Yeah.
happen to you?
Yeah.
It's like, so it all I don't think that that's a true one like that you
Hmm.
can just eat anything. Now, if you're starting like if it fits your macro style of diet and you're just only focusing on the quantity versus the quality, okay, again, let's build consistency, getting the right amount of protein, carbs, and fats.
Right.
But then eventually we're going to start to like skew things and focus on the quality. It's better to build up the habit on the quantity first. Here's what it's like to eat this much food, which for a lot of people, it's hard when they eat, like, for just even themselves, not even being an athlete, how much food they should be eating to maintain their current body weight or even lose weight. and just be fueled, it's a lot. They're
Yeah.
always surprised. I've met with so many people, men especially, who they'll be eating 30 or 40 grams of protein a day. You can't
Yeah.
even imagine that.
Right.
That's one meal for
No,
you.
yeah. I think sometimes like you forget where it's like, oh, I didn't eat breakfast and then I just had like I don't know. Like yeah, it's honestly by the end of the day when you really do the calculation, sometimes you sit there and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's like 50 grams of protein today."
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
not a
it.
lot.
Like that's not and I trained today. Like I need more. Yeah.
You need more for so many other things, and your body's going to be like, well, I need it for this. We want to live. You want it for muscles, so, but no, I'm sorry, it needs to go over here
Yeah.
because you didn't need enough carbs and stuff. So I need to break some of this down and turn it into energy. Um, and then I also want to store a little bit of it away for the next time you're starving because I don't want to die. Like your body starts pulling things to the right when you want them to go towards the left for strength and
Right.
aesthetics and stuff like that. Um, it doesn't always work that way. So yeah, I think that's like kind of like one of those things where I think when people try to like poo poo certain diets and stuff, they use that as an example.
Right.
Like kind of like when people get on like carnivore, they're like, well, the reason you're losing weight is because you're at a caloric deficit, blah, blah, blah. That's the only reason it works. It's like, well, I mean, there's other reasons why that works or animal based works or being a vegetarian works. So
Yeah.
it's not just because of that,
Hmm.
and everybody's going to respond to those things differently. I think another one, of course, is the easy one. Fat makes you fat. You know,
Mm.
that's not true either.
Yeah.
It's the what else is the fat coming with? It's coming with a lot of carbs and what that's doing, physiologically to help have you store that. An abundance of calories also makes you fat and low activity, not the actual fat. So you'll see a lot of people who look sickly and not healthy and out of shape eating low fat foods because they don't want to be fat, but it's like, hey, is that working? Like one,
Yeah.
it doesn't even taste good. But like two, like it's not working. And the reason it's not working is because you're still not eating enough food and you're not being active. So you're
Right.
just focusing on this thing like fat gets a bad rap. Like if you perceive yourself as fat, you don't want more fat. But it's like no, that's like valuable energy. Your brain loves it. Your brain
Yeah.
needs that fat. So many things in your body, your cell membranes, all that stuff, they need it, and you see people cut that out and they start to look emaciated and
Mm.
like you just see the way people look, especially in their face, and you're like, that doesn't seem right.
Right.
Or the new thing, I've met a lot of people going on Ozempic. That's crazy too. You know, the way they start to look. It's weird. Like it sucks all the tissue out of your neck and face, but it
Mm.
still leaves it other places. It's I don't know. Have you seen anyone who's told you they're on Ozempic?
No, actually. Yeah.
I remember over 20 years ago in like early nutrition classes, they would always talk about the magic pill. Like, yeah, everyone wants a magic pill, stuff like that. And they've kind of like they kept trying to make it like 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 fat burners, other things. This is going to be the magic pill. And they finally have something that's kind of like it, but the negative side effects I've seen with it, it's still not worth it. And
Yeah.
it's still you just don't want to move your butt and put in the work. You don't want to prep tonight for yourself tomorrow. It's like we were
Yeah.
talking about all the way at the beginning. You're not being considerate to yourself. It's also, what is this going to do to you in 50 years? Do you still need to be on it? All that stuff? I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other myths. I'm sure there's many other ones. But that's like the big one. Fat makes you
Right.
fat. Um, it doesn't. It helps you feel full too. If you're only eating those donuts or stuff, you feel like you need to eat all the time. Plus,
Yeah.
your brain is like it gets rewarded. It's like, hey, Miguel, remember that thing that was so awesome like 2 hours ago? Well, I'd like to feel like that again. Can you
Yeah.
just eat more of it? And you're like, oh, here we go, yeah. And then you start getting these uncontrollable cravings, that are crazy. So yeah, I don't know. Can you think of any other myths?
No, I think they're all along those lines of kind of just like, or just like myths around, yeah, like a lot of it is just people trying to undereat as a way of like getting to whatever goal there is. And you
Yeah.
know, you obviously need food, especially like if you're working out and doing so much cardio, and you need something, or else you'll just like, yeah, you may lose weight, but you know.
You just made me think of something here. Like as coaches, since you're coaching a class regularly, you're gonna see the same people often, and you'll start to notice changes in their body, right? Like their shirts are feeling a little fuller, and you're like, oh, all right, putting on some shoulder muscle there, you know. But you'll also start to see some people who have like rapid weight loss. You'll know when you see it. Or you won't see them for a week or two, and they come back, and you're like, what happened? I don't know if you've noticed that just being a member of the gym in any people, but like people will go through extreme lengths to accomplish some of these goals because it does become, you will get, it will, after you get through a certain hump, it can become easy to starve yourself all the time,
Yeah.
and then also when you see you're being rewarded for this quote work, you'll keep going. But that doesn't mean you're healthy. And that doesn't mean CrossFit and weightlifting will work anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's why you have to explain to people they have to have respect for the processes that we're trying to do. When I was doing the archery, you can't go get your arrows until the instructor says range is cleared. Because even if other people are talking and no one's shooting, if you just wander out there to go get your arrows and they don't notice you, you're gonna get shot in the neck. So like that's just a part of the respect of it. With the barbell, we have certain things where it's just the respect of it. Like we don't do that here. Don't have plates right behind you that you could get horribly hurt. Or in CrossFit, don't like you need to fuel yourself. Like we have to respect the thing of it. CrossFit, I feel like maybe gets so communal and community and family based that it starts to get too relaxed. But
Hmm.
like when you go to these other places, they're like, no, 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 this is how you die. We don't do that. You
Yeah.
know. So reminding people of like if you're going to do this intense activity that is no joke, that we're programming for the top athletes in the world, and we need to modify it to feel that stimulus. And the average person, if we took them off the street, would die struggling doing this. Remember how hard your first workout was. The more you do it, you start to take that for granted and forget. You can't forget that this person is working all day. They're going to school. They're have kids. So we shouldn't expect them to perform like an athlete. We need to modify it for them. So as coaches, we have to have respect for it. They have to have respect for it. It's not okay to be folded over on all your deadlifts. That's unacceptable for the world class powerlifter. Unless they're making a sacrifice to win. And they're taking that risk on their own. You don't need to do that here. With nutrition, they have to respect, and we have to instill the respect that shouldn't be okay to come in and not have eaten all day and do this workout. Look at that workout that you had today, that 5 rounds of
Yeah.
horribleness. Like someone who doesn't respect what we're doing might come in and they're starving themselves every day, and then they're just dragging through it. They're like, why can't I do this anymore? Blah blah. And then you can like, did you eat any food today? What are you doing? I noticed you've losing some weight right now. We had an athlete not too long ago that had rapid weight loss from not eating enough food, and they just wanted to get from A to B. They wanted that goal and whatnot. But there's a way to cheat the system, and there's a way to actually work hard for it.
Hmm.
And we want to lean towards earning it and working hard for it and doing things the right way. Because anyone who's doing the rapid weight loss stuff, they're just gonna, I'm gonna eat an apple a day and go to CrossFit. Yeah, you'll lose weight, but those CrossFit workouts won't be as effective as they should be.
Yep.
You open yourself up to injury, especially as your joints and muscles wear down. You have to remember your body will eat itself. Like when you're starving, it's going to go to the muscles in your legs first. And then all of a sudden you have knee pain and whatnot because like you're losing all this muscular integrity all around things. And people do that. I've seen it so many times. You have a conversation with them. I wrote a nutrition book, not too long ago, Own Your Eating. You remember that? I'll
Yep.
send them the book. I'm like, hey, read these chapters. This is what we talked about today. And then you try to help them, but they're already so psychologically set on like, I must be 105 pounds, and I'm gonna get it. I'm like, all right, you're gonna get it, but you might get other things too. You
Right.
might hurt your knees, hurt your shoulders, roll an ankle, get. And then what do we do to build you back up? You're gonna have to start eating food again. And in your body, if you starve yourself for long periods of time, when you start eating again and eating in abundance, your body's like, you know what, Miguel? Good idea. How about I hold some of this?
Hmm.
Because we were just in crisis. Your body doesn't know you were trying to get down to a size small shirt from a large. Your body's like, we were just dying. Do you guys all remember that? We were dying.
Yeah.
So let's put this in the bank account because we don't know when hardship's going to happen again. I'm going to store it right down here, right where Miguel doesn't want it, because that's an easy place for me to put it. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and people, you don't know, like, you got to talk to them. You don't know why they're thinking about these things. They see pictures of themselves from the past. They see, maybe they want it because of their spouse. I want my spouse to make sure that they're still attracted to me. I want to look good for this party or this work thing or my reunion coming up. People will do extreme things with their nutrition and their health because of social pressures too.
Right.
These it's such a crazy splintered thing. Like, we start with nutrition, base of the pyramid, the molecular biomolecular components for your fitness, and like, look how crazy we as human beings make it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to look good at my 10-year reunion that's in 2 months. I'm just gonna not eat food for 2 months and do hard, intense workouts
Yeah.
and ruin my hormones and my joints and all that stuff. So I look good in that dress for 5 minutes, and then after that, I'm going to go back to my ways and then balloon up 2 times what I was before or 3 times.
Hmm.
You ever seen someone lose a lot of weight and then gain it back?
No, not personally. I guess not.
It happens. It
Yeah.
happens. I've done it. I've lost a lot of weight, and then all of a sudden you're like, crap, we're at 89 kilos again. Like, so like, you get down to 79 or 75, and then like, you go through just a period of just like not working on it at all. You're busy. Like, I know how life works, and then all of a sudden you're like, you look at the scale, you look at your face, and you're like, oh crap, I did it
Mm.
again. It happens really easily. So yeah, I don't know. Have you thought about that type of situation before?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I mean, I always think about just sustainability, really, with
Hmm.
with it all.
Yeah, that's why, just boil it down to just being consistent and trying to just preach the safest way to do it. Like, when we teach the snatch, we're trying to get people to do it the safest way possible. Nutrition is one of those things that doesn't get a lot of respect for doing it the safest and the right way.
Yeah.
And there's so many psychological components that lead people to doing it incorrectly.
Hmm.
And that might even boil down to, I've met with so many clients where, like, hey, so why do you eat this way, or tell me about your relationship with food, and then they start telling you about their mom and how their mom always used to make comments about the way they look and things like that, and like, like, or their dad used to say this or that, like, so many things you can draw it right back to people's when they were growing up. I know for me, I used to get a knock at the door if my dad was angry at me or something, and I got yelled at. Not long after that, there'd be a knock at the door. Here's a thing of donuts. Here's the thing. Like, I'm like, hey, you still love me, right? Here's something
Hmm.
nice to make you feel good. And then after he passed away, my mom would continue that. Not even if there were like from a disciplinary thing, just like, hey, I'm checking up on you. Here's a bag of Snickers minis,
Yeah.
and then I would just be in my room, eating all of them nonstop. Because there wasn't any notion of like, you should save some of these. There's more coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, and I would just play video games. Like, so there's so many things like that you have to understand where someone's background with nutrition is coming from.
Yeah.
Why are they doing the things that they're doing? And then trying to correct that. Which, if you're not ready to be a psychologist, just keep it simple. Be
Hmm.
consistent, make healthy choices, set a plan. You can keep it very cursory and whatnot. But if you're going to work with someone on their nutrition, you got to do a lot of deep diving. After you get that week plan, then you got to start asking questions, ask another question. Why do you do that? Why do you do it that way? Tell me
Right.
about this. I did one nutrition seminar where everyone in the seminar cried when we did that. Like, hey, let's just talk about our backgrounds and go around the room and our relationship with food. And then it just took the first person to open up. Then everyone else was like, this is okay here. And then we started talking about mom and dad, and oh my God, Miguel. Like,
Yeah.
so I that was an experience. And I'm like, all right, now let's talk about calculating the numbers here. But like it was the feedback I got, it was good for them to do that. They're like, I needed that healing. I need to talk
Yeah.
about what my mom did to me, about always telling me I didn't look good in my dress or something like that. And the way what people's parents said to them way back was powerful and impactful and lasts for forever. We have to remember, as coaches, does the same thing,
Hmm.
right? Like the things you say, like, look, I didn't mean anything when I told you you look tired today, right? And and then later on, your ballroom and dancing instructor said you look tired today. So I guess maybe you did look tired
Yeah, I
that
guess
week.
so.
It was a long week, but look, it stayed with you, right?
Definitely.
It stayed with you. So for everyone listening, I told Miguel in Barbell Club, "You look tired today," and he took offense. He took that personally. But then later in the week, someone else told you look tired. Both instructors you had told you look tired.
Yeah.
That could, I hope not, affect you negatively. Did it? How did it affect you? And did it cause you to make any like internal, like maybe I need to change something or anything like that?
Well,
When
no, one, I just don't think it's something that, that people say that often. So I wasn't expecting it. And then, no, I mean, by the next day, when I heard it the second time, I could feel that I was very tired.
Mhm.
So that time I was like, okay, I guess I've been tired this week.
Yeah, because I mean, I was tired. It was an exhausting week.
Yeah.
Maybe some of that was me projecting what I was feeling on you. Because I just saw you sitting at the bottom of your squat, lean down there, and it's like I'm like, yeah, that's where I would want to like just so tired, you know. But we have to remember when you're teaching class, everybody they're not hanging on every word, but
Hmm.
like every word you say has power because you're in
Right.
a position of authority, you know. So a better way me and your ballroom instructor could have gone about that, be like, hey, how are you feeling today, like are we on a 10, are we on a 5, like do it a little differently, and then you could be like, you know what, I'm on a 3, I feel tired. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, should we change up the routine today? That'd be something different. But in our barbell club group, it is a little bit different as well. Like we're just in there, and
Yep.
that was just the first thing that popped into my mind. Um, like a bunch of weeks ago, I said something to Alex, and Alex was like, "Oh, I'm catching strays." Remember that? And like
Mm.
I didn't even really mean anything by it. Like I just made a comment, you know. But in barbell club, you guys are normally more thick-skinned.
Yeah.
In another situation, let's say we're in an on ramp. This is week 2 of on ramp, and these are people that don't know you yet or don't know me yet. That could affect them even just signing up, right? Like just everything you say makes a difference.
Yeah.
Or maybe you say something, you're like, that's what my dad used to say to me all the time. I'm not joining
Mm.
this gym. Like, remember, like at some point you will become like a fatherly figure to people in your classes and stuff like that, especially depending on their age. And what you say means a lot. So things to think about when you own your own gym one day. Then it becomes even more impactful. Like we're at Porter Fitness, and Porter himself said I sucked. Oh,
Mm.
that's rough, right?
Yeah.
Not one of the coaches, but Miguel walked in and he's like, dude, that ain't that like you ain't doing that right. And then
Right.
he kept walking away. He didn't even try to help. Like so, things like that. All right. I know we're over our time. We had a goal of 115. We're at 145 essentially. So we've gone over 30. You and I had a goal to try to keep it to an hour 15. But this is a big topic. Anytime we talk about nutrition, it is a big topic, and we did start it a little bit late. Anything else, Miguel, on nutrition stuff?
Not overall nutrition stuff. I think just overall from what we talked about today, I guess the big thing that came up was like consistency and like just, you know, regular checking in with yourself and all of that, adjusting where you need to. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just aim for consistency first, and I think a good task for us to do, and I'll add this to itinerary for our coaches meeting. Something we should be doing is trying to make a little bit of time for it. Could be nutrition or lifestyle type things.
Hmm.
I think that would be a good thing to start to add into this back end of class. Like we don't need to use every ounce of class to just fill in all of the movement stuff. We could be getting more out of class by maybe like, okay, write down the numbers on the board. And I'm noticing people taking photos and logging their scores more because I already wrote it down for them on the
Yeah.
board. Now they didn't forget. Because I think sometimes people do forget immediately what their score was,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and then also starting to talk about and having this conversation of like, it could even be next Sunday. You're like, hey, everybody, I've set some goals while you guys are all holding the couch stretch. What's one goal you have for yourself? And then you get a conversation going there. So it doesn't even have to be nutrition. Like you can kind of lump these all into the same thing, like goal setting, which nutrition is often a big part of it. Um, yeah. I do plan to do a nutrition workshop or thing here in the new year, and we are going to be trying to partner with like one of those meal services again that'll set up shop in the gym and they'll deliver the food so you come to the gym and all that. And they're going to be sponsoring the regional too, so everybody will get like a little coupon, and the best lifters will get a nice big prize. So I for the gym, like kind of my goal for the gym outside of like, okay, new members, stuff like that, is nutrition. So this is very timely. So
Yeah.
we'll be doing a presentation at some point. When I don't know, maybe in February. Got to keep figuring it out. But yeah, cool. Well, Miguel, any where can people follow you?
On Instagram at Couldn't Be Miguel.
Couldn't be Miguel. Follow me, James A. McDermott. Follow the gym, Albany CrossFit, the Barbell Club, Albany CrossFit Barbell Club, the show, the Barbell Strikes Back, and we are getting closer to our goal. We're not at 2 hours, so okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. It's a work in progress. We'll make adjustments. All right, great talk, Miguel. Everyone, we will talk to you later.
Yep.